So, I've just been wandering aimlessly and without aim around Harry Reid International, and I've found this amazing museum to aviation in Nevada, and more locally Clark County, which is where Las Vegas is situated. And so the little Cessna 172 hanging in the lobby, I just thought was a bit of a, you know, promotional look at me. This is an airport and it's got an aeroplane in it, but oh no, how silly of me. It's a very famous aircraft. So it's it flew a world record of flight endurance, basically. It sounds quite incredible. Hang on, let's see if we can see it again. There it is. That's the actual plane, which in 1959 flew for 64 days, 22 hours and 19 minutes and 5 seconds, continuously without landing. That record's never been broken. 64 days, more than 2 months. They just flew around. So they had it rigged up with a special track road with a line painted down the middle of it that the refueling truck could drive down at 75 miles an hour, whilst they dangled, they sort of dangled it, well, there's a picture of it here. But there's a crew of folks, the plane's flying just above the truck, and they sort of handed your man, co-pilot, the hose, and he dabbed it in the tank, and it took them 3 minutes to put 95 gallons in the belly tank that they'd installed in the plane especially for the purpose. And 64 days, 2 men in that little plane. Just think about it. So the car behind was actually is a Ford Thunderbird, and that was the airport fire truck, basically, back in the day. Not necessarily particularly associated with that flight, but however, you can see there's a picture of it here, big picture of it flying alongside. So that car drove alongside the plane, make sure it didn't land, basically, at any point, touch the wheels on the ground. And rather amusingly, so the 2 guys that flew the plane, there's a quote from John Cook and his mate Robert Tim, who flew the aircraft between them, and they had to sort of get out and clean the windscreen periodically, and obviously refuel twice a day. They had to refuel. John Cook quoted, well, he wrote, "Next time I feel in the mood to fly endurance, I'm going to lock myself in our garbage can with the vacuum cleaner running and have Bill serve me T-bone steaks chopped up in a thermos bottle until my psychiatrist opens for business in the morning." 64 days. Two men in that. You know, that isn't. It's a tad bigger than my little Icarus C-42. And, you know, if you've been in that for, well, that's the longest I've been in that for, 4 hours. Yeah, you're ready for out. You are ready for out. So yeah, that's 64 hours. I mean, oh, hang on. Here's a picture. Look, there's a picture of that Cessna and this Thunderbird. Well, I think this Thunderbird might be a recreation. Oh, and then this airport was developed, obviously, over years and years and years and years. Once owned by Howard Hughes, remember him? Anyway, Las Vegas continues to amaze and surprise.